We're live.
Morning.
Hi, Charlie.
Yeah, it's a seat to
Sure.
Cheers.
Plenty of seats.
One over there.
I'll take that.
But you gotta have pants on.
Tom, how you doing? Good, how you doing, Charlie? Morning. Nice to meet you. Good, dear. You?
We're ready, Steve.
We're ready, okay. Well, nice to be with you all in person today. Be remote last time around. But it looks like we'll begin with the approval of the minutes. So you all have the minutes in your board packet there, a chance to review. If so, I would just be looking for a motion to approve. Okay, can we get a second? Okay, need for discussion? Not, all approved, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, approved minutes. Let's move over to the treasurer's report. Financial committee report.
All right, on the treasurer's report, there's a couple of things that you have in your packet. The finance committee report from last month is in the packet. And that, those minutes, I am going to say about the finance report this month. What we discussed last month was to do a couple of things. One was to try to refine the report to include previous years. And you'll see in the report that we have a profit and loss comparison. This one was the balance sheet, and then the profit and loss. In most situations, they have comparisons to previous years. That's one of the things that we were looking at as far as the finance committee was concerned. The other thing that we had discussed was how much information should be provided to the full board, and we felt that you should have the entire packet to be available to you every month. So with that, if there's any questions, I can maybe answer or maybe Barb go through that for us as far as what they've done to the restructure the finance committee report.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, no, it looks good. It looks what I'm used to seeing and other P&Ls and financial summaries, so. And not too much where we couldn't look through them, right? You know, so I think for the full board, it's not too cumbersome for us to actually see all this stuff and be able to have that opportunity to review. So. Okay.
Yeah, the one thing that we did, also, Terry just mentioned it to me, that we've outlined, on the separate sheet, the expenses that have to be approved today by the board, and there's also a deposit summary, those are the separate sheets for this time. So going back to the expenses by vendor summary, they total, there's 2, 4, 6 items, and they total $20,002.51. So when you're approving the finance committee report, you're approving payment of these examples. $20,002.81 or 51 cents. Need my glasses.
I forgot mine too, so I'm gonna take your word for it. Alrighty, anything else that you want to talk about, discuss with the financial committee review? Okay, well, if not, can we get a motion to approve the committee report?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
Second, okay, any discussion? Okay, all those who approve, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have approved the financial committee report.
All right, Steve, and the other part of the treasurer's report is the update on new business options for bank funds. Melissa has an update on that.
Sort of a group update. I mean, Barb and Craig have been working on it, and we're at the stage where
Barb has a pile of,
Emails.
how-to documents, but the most important news is that Terry, a few meetings ago, requested that we go back to the bank, to the community bank, and request into our partnership with them right now, and frankly, the amount of money that we have in our account, and that will be there for many years at this point ago, that they waive the fees, if not reduce them, and they fully waive every fee. So we won't pay for those services, so knowing that the board had approved it pending those fees being negotiated, we went forward, Barb and Craig got everything signed, and now Barb's gotta do probably a good month's worth of legwork to get everything set up. So, but that's where we're at, and so thanks to Terry for that, and we're in shape there. And Craig said he's already gotten. a
I've already signed
notification,
in, so I'm already
Yeah,
getting
so what that will
notifications.
do is anytime there's activity in our bank account, it will be front and center for Barb and Craig, and they'll see it right away. And so the fraud goes, their fraud, on those bank accounts goes down by about 90-something% because they're monitored. That's what that service offers. So it's great, good news.
Yeah, great all the way around. Yeah, a perfect example of how, board input and board expertise helps, right? So this is wonderful to hear and see. Great. Anything else on finances?
I think that's it.
Okay.
That's it, Steve.
Perfect. All right, looks like we're moving over to action items then. We have our presentation. Turn it over to you guys. Take it away. Great.
Thank you for having us. We've been here a few times before for some. Some of you, we're new faces. Just really quickly, we're gonna go over, it's gonna be a quickish presentation, and then we left enough time for questions and things like that. We'll do intros, we'll go over the background of our effort for this project to date. At a very high level, we'll talk about the site location for the project, get into how the building plan developed, show you the plan, go over the exterior renderings, the look of the building, interior renderings, and then we'll end on the cost estimate and open it up. So we're gonna try to be somewhat quick, but if there's questions as you see pop up, please feel free to raise your hand. I'll start with Paul since we're gonna go in order.
Hey everybody, Paul Lukowski, project manager.
Hi, I'm Miguel Ortiz, I'm the director of Creative Labs.
I'm Jason Streb. I'm an architect with CPL. I've been there about 17 years. I'm director of design, so my role in the company is to work with folks like yourselves on projects in this stage to conceptualize, visualize, and really build the project. And the team that you're not seeing here is full of engineers, landscape architects, interior designers that helped inform the project. So I want to go over just at a high level for those who haven't been involved in the process for where we are today, just to give you a little bit of context. We found this great historical image from Amity with the logging, which hopefully will make some sense later on. CPL had prepared a report several years ago to kind of come up with almost a master plan-like document for this type of facility, the marketplace. As part of that broader site plan development, and just for context, this is the Quicklies, it's just down the way. There's a hotel, some restaurants, new roadways and infrastructure, and of course, the marketplace facility. As we were working on the project has kind of always been slated back here, a little further on, and certainly part of a larger development, but set back. During our conversations, the visibility of the building and this project became a main driver, and so how people can see the building, how the building can draw people in, was a big discussion, and Craig, kind of in the 11th hour, said, well, wait a minute, what if we shifted it from back here to a little bit more of a prominent location? We agreed. So as we were planning out these plots, they're all roughly the same size as the marketplace building that we're going to show you today. So you're seeing, and we'll show you in a large version, it located just off of Route 20, kind of behind the Quicklies there. You'll see some site elements and context like that. Again, we did work with signage along the road to call out visibility, but really, and hopefully as you see the building, it presents something that draws people in and becomes kind of a cultural institution. So as we were, yeah,
Just
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul, yeah.
Hey, okay. Yeah, so as Jason was saying, just a little more background about this. We've been looking at this daily. You guys maybe haven't looked at this in a little while. A few things that we did together was with your building committee, we had 3 meetings. We had 2 work sessions and then kind of a review one virtually. So that did help inform things like relocating. Other reasons for why that got relocated to off Route 20 was presenting the building, making it visible, signage, stuff like that to make it known that it's there. Hiding it back on the campus, further back, we might not have prominent signage. We talked about having some sort of a market sometimes there, and people mentioned from the building committee that, hey, I really go to a market when I see the stand on the road, and I see it there and I can just go into it. Whereas if we hide those back in the parking lot or the back of the hotel, you might not have that visibility. So we really worked through a bunch of things like this with your committee to kind of, which helped inform the location, the building, what it looks like, materiality, everything. We still draw upon what the architectural students at Elford College did, Elford State, and we are still working with the original principles, which is we want to make an office space for ACIDA. And that turns out to be about 2,600 square feet roughly to get in all the program that Jason Miguel will go through later. And the remainder of the building is really the marketplace, which is the cafe, the market, the marketplace itself, and some toilet rooms. That ends up being about 2,400 square feet. And the mission of that was really to have one location and sorry if this is repetitive to all of you, because you probably know
No, it's
this,
good to
but
do it.
just to bring it back and focus, the purpose of the marketplace is really to have one location to represent the area. So the 3 colleges can have representation, maybe showpieces there. You have a lot of art here. So between the pottery and the ceramics to people who do sculptures and jewelry and whatnot. So they have a place that they can have here, and maybe there's one person running the stand that allows for everything to be sold there in one location. So that was really the point of the marketplace. We get into the financials later, but just like a peek at what that's about is there's the ARC grant you guys are going after, which is up to $2 million. That's really funding the marketplace. And then we understand that there's the office portion, which ACIDA is more self-funding. And, we understand kind of the metrics of where each of those are and trying to keep on budget. There's always a high and low. We can always pull back materiality, shift the roof a little bit to maybe reduce cost or increase or wherever it needs to go. But those are some of the considerations we have. We're presenting one scheme to you today. There are variations that can happen. There's a value engineering process. There's things we can add on to meet your needs later. This is a very conceptual level.
And lastly, it was made so that we can expand it.
Made for
That
expansion.
was one thing we talked about, because hopefully it'll grow.
Right, yeah, both the office has ability to expand as well as the marketplace itself. So that's always been one of the thoughts. We did look into other things as well, like wayfinding for the campus and whatnot. I don't believe we're getting into that too much today, but we're doing a very the Cliff Notes version for you today of everything that was discussed in the work sessions. But we can get in those at the Q&A session if you have questions. So, anything you missed?
no, that was great. Thank you for giving some context. It's a good segue too when we talk about that plan. So on top of the ability for the building to expand, one of the things that drove the layout and orientation of the building was potentially the ability to build it in 2 phases, office piece being first, marketplace being second. We had looked at 2 separate schemes throughout the course of our development, landed on a singular one, and we'll show you when we show the floor plan how that can logically split. Because there would be some shared services between the 2 functions if they were to be built separately, like mechanical room, some toilets, things like that. This is just a diagram of how we started to look at organizing the building. Really, it came down for us to kind of 3 separate spaces, and ultimately what we were calling the gallery back then and the lobby are really the same space. But how do you take these 3 components, seemingly separate, but all together in one building and organize them in a way? Cost was a big driver. We wanted to keep the building shape and construction simple and affordable. And really what we landed on was kind of this simplified box version for the orientation and layout. How people move and flow through the space, you're obviously going to have two different users really, right? The office component. We looked at locating a kind of core services, again, because of that split of the building. The gallery, the flex space, and all how people move through. We talked about having the building be light-filled and airy, open. You're going to get people moving and meandering through, so keeping the spaces flexible and large to accommodate that piece. And then again, that growth component. So what you're going to see here is that the expansion for the building can logically move out in both directions. And then views back to nature was a big piece as well.
Can I ask a quick question about the expansion? As you envision it, or maybe Craig, as you're moving the proposal forward, is that expansion going to be open space, or are you shelling that out and then going to renovate that?
Well, there's nothing in there to build at this stage, but it's making, we're trying to make sure, especially for the marketplace, if it is successful as we think it's going to be, we're hoping to be able to build on in the future.
Right, but what, so
There'll be
you're,
nothing up
Nothing
there.
now.
Nothing.
Okay.
So future expansion means really future.
okay. Well, it might be worth thinking about costs to shell it out rather than wall it off. I mean, because then the future expansion is going to be so much more costly, right? If you wall it off, because then you're going to have to demo and
Right, no, I know.
renovate, and so it's probably going to be a lot more affordable if you just build the structure, right, and then shell out what's going to be your usable space, and then keep the other space just there so that you can renovate it afterwards.
That's a good point, and I think you have a valid point that it could save costs later. There are a few other factors that we weren't really getting into today, but there's the solar panel aspect of it that code requires a building 5,000 square feet and over now to include that. For a building of 5,000 square feet, we calculated about 13 panels would need to go on the ground, the roof, or somewhere, which isn't substantial, but it really only powers like one room.
Yeah.
So it's really doesn't have much of a purpose maybe for this, and it's just something we have to do for code. So if we were to build the expansion now, that might trigger that. It's something to consider.
Yeah.
We're right under.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
work with them to make an estimate on what it would cost to do a bare minimum.
Exactly.
But at this stage for the grant, we didn't include either one because
Okay.
it doesn't make sense for the grant.
Yeah, just a thought, yeah.
Sure.
But then also, yeah, as you're doing this design and
Right.
ultimate construction, you just want to.
Yeah, we're at that phase, that would be the next step.
Yeah, but also make sure the mechanicals match what your planned expansion is.
Sure.
Yeah, you know. God,
Yeah.
it's gonna be working out mechanicals and putting new ones in.
Very good point.
Okay,
Yeah, and
thank
it's
you.
a good point, because the most inexpensive building you're gonna build is the one you do today,
First.
right?
Right.
I mean, prices aren't going down?
I wish. This was our sketch as we started planning this. So again, very much like the diagram, the marketplace area over to the left, you have this central entrance area, front to back, that can activate the outside of the building too. It also allows light to flood into the space. And then what you're seeing here is a very logical floor plan for the office area. That core services function is kind of located here. Mechanical room, data closet, an individual toilet for the office area. When a marketplace goes, a larger toilet area accommodate the size volume for there. A big component, and as you can see in the room today, was a large size conference room to accommodate 15 to 20 people. So we located that centrally. We have the IDA offices, which are good sized, and you'll see renderings of that later. Can accommodate obviously a desk, but also a small meeting table. And one of the components in this plan was showing additional office space to be rented out, potentially. So we made an effort to kind of locate and keep somewhat separate the IDA offices from potential. Yes, thank you. Here's the floor plan. I've talked a lot, so I'm gonna let Miguel.
So kind of don't want to repeat too much information that Jason just said, but essentially in the renderings, you'll be able to see like 3 large design drivers. Over the the marketplace, the roof will be a little bit higher, that massing will be a little bit more voluminous to allow a decompression of the space. But then over the phase one, the office area will be a little bit more intimate, just so it's more of a human scale. But then within this plan, there's pretty much like two main axes of circulation. Like through this corridor here, you're able to enter off to the side, a private entrance, but then also it merges over into the market. But then also having circulation aspects vertically through the vestibule and out to the back to see the views of the space. For the flex space, it could be storage, it could be like an artist entrepreneurship, but all in all, that's the floor plan. But moving into the material aspect and like the design graphics, this is our material inspiration. The building committee was really focused on local materials, setting for looking regionally for the aesthetic matching and fitting into the space, but also sustainability. So with this, this material cladding is Pioneer Millwork, and it's located in Farmington, fairly close, about an hour and a half away. But one of the things that they do is they focus on sustainability. So they the cladding material is reused from existing spaces, but then that eliminates a CO2 aspect from logging as well. So we have we're drawing locally from like the wood aspect that you see a lot locally, but then also we're utilizing a stone-based component to kind of anchor the building down that you'll see in the rendering. So essentially we're doing like 3 design drivers. How I mentioned earlier is we have a larger volume here, but then also a nice volume of space at the entrance to create a warm, welcoming, inviting space. But then you see on this side for the offices, we created a nice lower volume to be able to differentiate between the 2 spaces. For the next renderings, you'll see just an activated farmer's market and what it could look like. So then this could really draw, this would be like the parking lot area, but it could really draw off of Route
20, yes.
Yeah, the entry piece was a big component from the group too, having a clear sense of entry, people know where they need to go, having the building not feel like they didn't belong, so having it feel accessible. Signage components certainly will help with that. And this is, we had a million options, right? It was like option 1, section 3. So we looked at a variety of different forms, some more modern, some more traditional. This was where we landed after our last meeting. And really, it felt contextual, it felt of the area, and it felt like something that people could feel proud of, right? An elevated
You
experience.
missed a lot of the fun where the building committee went round in circles with a whole bunch of different looks. And we missed you, Miguel, last time because Miguel makes funny comments. And when we make funny comments, he puts them on the screen. You know, like, no way, that's ugly, too modern.
Yeah.
So you missed a lot of that. But this was something which I thought was worth noting that everyone immediately loved. So it was, I mean, people can comment on that, but it was unanimous that we all thought this was it. So it was a really, really well done.
It's much better look, but it's similar to the Alfred State.
Yeah.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah,
Previous
sure.
slide. He asked about expansion. So on the left side there is where the gallery beam, you could expand out a lot. How would the roof line and all that? Would you have to redo the roof line for symmetry or not?
No, I think if we expanded this way, we could tie a roof in here, similar to how we're doing on this side, and not necessarily either replicating it and have this kind of V condition, or to your point, having to now do
look
this
to that
there.
right there. I mean, but that's what I was wondering. If you expand out, that's gonna.
Yeah.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else as we have the exteriors on? We're gonna move into the interior renderings, which will be new for you all. Pretty excited about that. We worked with our interior designer early on just to kind of come up with some visual elements or inspiration like you're seeing on the screen here of what the inside could look like. Obviously, with the marketplace, durability and flexibility is going to be key. You'll have kind of kiosk type stations for displaying of goods that we talked about earlier. There was an idea for a cafe component, which also would function as a point of sale for selling marketplace items. But really, natural materials, very simple, polished concrete floors. The bathrooms were a big talking point. We wanted them to be clean and simple. And so hopefully when you see the design elements, you'll see that. Anything else that I'm missing out?
From an interior aspect for the marketplace, we really wanted to tie in the wood aspect, but then also differentiate the walls. Right now it's showing tile, doesn't necessarily need to be. It could be not necessarily like a wainscoting, but
Textured wall
like a
covering.
textured wall covering. But right now it's just to get a feel of an activation of the space of what that larger volume will feel like. Very warm, inviting, open. And then with the windows on this side, they're still taking into consideration having smaller windows for efficiency, but then also large enough to allow a nice ample light throughout the space.
And this would be kind of your view as you enter in the front door and look.
One thing to note about this too is, and Craig, we didn't get it in yet, sorry, but we understand that, you know, some of the vendors have a big ceramics component here, some painting and stuff like that, and local art, sculpture. So what's representative in here isn't necessarily your local
Marketplace.
Some jewelry, some food elements, right? Actual
then,
money, stuff like that.
Yeah, the basis of design was really, you know, which we were kind of taking a look at and kind of feed off of is the Terramax station, which has more tables and whatnot. So this is representation of one way of a marketplace, but it would probably morph into what you need to be, which might be more like the Terramax.
I think Terramac does it by flat space because they get more things in the building. If you think about it, because when you use the flat space versus the vertical like this, you can really get, I mean, it's full of stuff. Of course, it's doing all of West Virginia. It's a big difference.
For the training room, we still wanted to keep that rustic vibe towards the space, but really elevating that training center and creating a nice focal wall for the various screens, but then also in this room, it might be a little difficult cocking your head to the side. So we could have screens on the right and left wall. And then basically a recessed ceiling with some cove lighting, but then having pendant lighting drop down to kind of create more of an intimate feel in the space.
And the reason we call it a training room is because when we're not using it as a conference room, we're hoping to do some training with the people on entrepreneurship and how to run a business. So that's part of the grant. So it's a multi-use basically.
Right, I mean, Incubator Works, support, they're all really excited about even the opportunity to be able to
Come out here and do the training right
use
there.
the space. So we thought about a lot of it as flex space in terms of what we could do there and how we could use the space.
And then this would be a typical office application. We would have a wainscoting at the bottom. Right now, this is depicting more so of like a dark, moody paint. Doesn't necessarily need to be. It could be lighter and brighter, but then one of the things we really wanted to tie the outdoors to the indoors to really get the feel of the rolling hills throughout Allegheny County.
So Craig, this could be your office.
That's your view right there. Lovely.
This is just kind of the interior rendering recap. Any questions, comments on the components you're seeing to date?
Terry wants to live there. Yeah. She's been whispering in my ear the whole time. Can I just?
She's one of the artists.
She's one of our artists.
Yeah. I said
She's
it.
a
Maybe
big-
turn that one of those
Better
offices
get busy
into a
as a
studio, right? So you're-
She's a potter.
Oh, very cool. Great.
And actually, that's another use for some of these office spaces is when somebody's setting up a business, we can use that.
Hey, Craig, can I guess, or say, I'm listening to all this, I'm actually okay with a lot of it, it's good. Bill Castle, right? Is everybody familiar with
Yeah, I
Bill
know
Castle?
Bill was, yeah.
Right, so this is the first thing that came to mind with Hollywell Collar. And how he was out for state, right, and was from right when you got off that road, and all of the art was displayed, students' art.
Yep.
Right, and it was beautiful, and it was nothing but your footprints right here. So I would love if we can keep in mind when this is all done, if something could be dedicated to Bill Castle. Is there anything, or more like his,
More than likely not, I'll be
No,
honest with you.
really, okay,
Not that he can't be mentioned or something of what he
because
has
this
done.
feels like him,
No, I know, I understand that.
okay, okay. But a room or a,
We'll look at that, but I'm just saying, we're not looking at, because if and when, just like the college, if we start naming things, usually they come with a price.
that's what it makes sense.
I've got two questions for you. On the windows, are we looking at like a photosensitive type active window for energy savings?
See, he's more like an engineer than me, see, he's asking my questions.
Power wall.
Great question. So, we haven't gotten too much into that level of detail, but, typically the glazing is gonna be, for the energy code, if not better. We almost always will put in, lines, components, but there's a lot of different ways from an energy standpoint to kind of combat the glazing, if that's what you're mentioning. We don't typically do sensor.
I'm looking at more of a photosensitive glass that tints when it's bright sunlight to keep the interior space cool so you don't have to run the air conditioning. And then in the winter months, it's wide open now, heat the space.
Yep.
And then my other question was, has any consideration gone into hardening the entryways so they can be locked down in emergencies?
Those are all great comments. I think as we would get into the project and more specifics, those are components, but I think if the design is set up that it could be locked down, we've got that vestibule in there. And our engineers, if we were to get into it, would have, card access and all that good stuff associated.
Can I ask about the access, for particular artists like Dwight there who makes
Right.
huge,
We've already got him
sculpture.
committed to do some outside stuff,
Good,
don't worry.
But if you were gonna put a large sculpture or something in the inside, I'm assuming the doors could accommodate large.
The scale of his work, no.
Yeah.
It is that
How
big.
tall are we talking? Like,
Yeah.
If
outside
both
guys.
of those doors fully open with no support in the
Yeah.
middle, maybe.
It's still not tall enough,
Maybe.
because a lot of his stuff is
You would
pretty
have to
tall.
pull it in, yeah.
But
Or
we're,
be an
we've,
outside.
al-
point, 'cause
we've
then
already
plan
committed to putting
forward.
some of his larger sculpture
Oh, yeah,
outside.
it could be an outside.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking of that, because it would be not to have a post
In the middle, to be, but it
Right.
even
For
for
some other
for
people,
some
yeah.
things, yeah. Because arts can be large scale.
They do make the doors a little.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm just saying, his stuff is like 10 foot
Yeah,
tall.
yeah, massive.
I think there's enough space to get it in, even if it's sculpture.
Curved.
It's just put it this way, he would figure out how to get it in
Yeah,
if
he
the
would.
doors were
There
there.
we go.
And again, too, like that flex space that's off the back, like we could throw an overhead door on the back.
On the back, because
Yeah,
there's already one
great.
on the
We
front.
have one on the front
Yeah,
face
it's
in the
already
marketplace.
separated right there. Yeah, that's a great idea.
What does that entry parking access to the building look like, just from a loading, unloading perspective, and then parking? Yeah,
I don't think it's
You have a
fully,
back,
fully
No,
thought out
that
yet.
is the
Okay.
drawing.
But just quick schematic.
See,
Okay.
he's talking.
Right now,
Yeah.
we're really just showing
Yeah.
20 or 30 spots to facilitate like the first phase of people. And then there'd be the thought of more money, if it really takes off, we can add on more parking. To your point, if we did have an overhead door in the back, we'd have to put some sort of pavement or an alleyway in the back or something. So I think we're at a very early stage, but we would definitely form into accommodate that. Maybe we don't even want the parking in front of the building, maybe one in the back or something. We can still play with that.
Right.
Have that discussion. We didn't really get into that with the building committee. I think this is the first time we're seeing the building really at the front with parking.
Right.
So,
Where, well, this doesn't show parking at all, but it looks like in the very scaled back rendering on the side.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we showed it at the street in this one.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
around the front.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm following.
Yeah, maybe it wants to be along the road more, that's going into the campus or something, but we can definitely look at that. I think the thought of having some of it along Route 20 was activating market if there was one of the.
To be able to do a farmer's market.
With
Yeah.
the tents and stuff, yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, but it's a good thing to consider though at the outset, because loading and unloading gonna be a
Yeah.
big thing here.
Yeah.
Right, so just thinking about that infrastructure and the surrounding the buildings.
Yeah, even if you flex that parking lot instead of on the right, around the back to where that double door, that overhead door could be installed, that would work.
The mechanical room is also located.
Right, exactly, too, that's true.
Yeah, and I want to think too, about the expansions more seriously as we continue designing. If the office were to expand, is it expanding, north on the page or east on the page there? So obviously that'll play into parking. We don't want to remove parking, just put in.
Right.
And then same for the marketplace. So,
I hate to focus on parking, but that is like my world.
It's
You couldn't be more surprised how a president spends all his days talking about parking. And there's never enough. And you're gonna be talking about farmer's market, big vehicles coming in and out, and where are they gonna park while they're selling their stuff, and how many people do you anticipate coming in? Like, parking's gonna be a real big deal here if the vision's to be realized, so.
Is that space on the right of the access road, is that already paved, or is that already gravel with the quicklies behind it?
That's paved.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
it's paved, right?
That's, yes. Yeah, actually, the road up to the end of that pavement is finished.
Yeah,
They,
Right.
they put the road in
right.
at my request so they could just continue versus
Right.
having to figure out how to put it in later.
Parts of the parking though is that you keep the building close to the road, you can see it as quickly.
Absolutely.
Well, that's why we put it out
Parking
there.
Yeah.
Not
It is a
necessarily
great
in
idea,
front.
put it there, I think
Thank
that
you.
on the road 20 access is great,
Right.
yeah,
You can
because you
see
do
it.
want to be able to see it.
Right, and Craig's point was, if you go to the restaurant and the hotel, you know you're going.
Yeah,
You'll
This
go
we
there,
need the
but you'll
traffic.
never go back there to see
Right,
the
exactly.
parking place.
I agree, it was great, change.
Once in a while.
You gotta keep track of those ones.
That's right.
Fun part. So the last report you saw back, I think in September of 2025, which we helped with based on the Alfred students' renders and whatnot, was about 2.8 million. And that was a 5,000 square foot building, which is really the marketplace only, not so much the offices. So there's going to be some differences in cost, and some of that is reacting to office space compared to marketplace just being dense. So there's more walls, there's more doors. I think the marketplace itself has like 3 doors compared to the 14 of the office. So that's where the prices go up a little bit, just having an open space to more condensed, more toilet rooms, things like that. So looking at the first one being an office, just if only your office space was built, the ACIDA, which is the 5 offices, the conference room, the kitchenette, the toilet room, and then the support spaces with that. That's looking to be about just sub of $2 million, and that's with the geothermal option, which is what we're hoping to move forward with. We also looked at, and these are very rough numbers, conceptual, there's contingencies built into these, which you can see on the next 2 sheets that's still, there's a low and high, so we can bring it up or down, 10, 15% either which way, depending on how we could value engineer it. Or if you're like, no, I want to have more prominent things here, better finishes, we can always have more costs, obviously. So moving down to the office space, which again, we found to be about 2,600 square feet of the total building at 5,000 or 4,999 to get rid of the PD. But that was a little less. It came to about 1.8 million. Going into the full building at the 4,999, this is the marketplace and office. So it's not exactly just like you double it because it's double the space. Again, the marketplace is more wide open. So there's a lot less built in there. There's less finishes, there's sealed concrete floor and stuff like that. So it's not just doubling it instead of like for the geothermal comparison, instead of the 1.9 or 2 million for just the office space, it becomes 3.3 roughly or 3.4. The way they look at the costs are, the first 2 is just office, so that would all be funded by the ACIDA. Whereas when we move down to the next 2, you see the ARC grant will cover a portion up to 2 million. We put 1.9 in there for now. So the remainder would be by you, which is about 1.4, 1.5 million there. The next one is going to natural gas in lieu of the geothermal.
And just so we're clear, Paul,
Yeah.
sorry, it should say marketplace and office on the bottom one too, just so people don't get confused. It's
That's
just
my
missing-
typo.
Oh,
That's
thank
okay, I just wanted to
Very-
take it because
the
it
very
looks weird,
last
the number
one.
looks
Yes.
weird, yeah, it should,
That's my typo.
that's
Yeah.
okay,
Thank you.
sorry.
Yes, that should say marketplace, 2,300 gross square feet, office, 2,600, natural gas. Thank you very much.
Sure.
That's a great point. So that went down a little bit of natural gas from the geothermal. There's a lot in the geothermal with the site preparations, the electrical, we're looking at putting a horizontal system in a pond loop, using one of the ponds on the site, so digging that down deeper to get that in there. So that's kind of the difference in the two that we're foreseeing right now. And again, the remainder is by ACIDA after the ARC grant is deducted from the total, so that puts you about $1.2, $1.3 million.
Yep, the geothermal too, it's more of an upfront cost, but the long-term savings overall make it a benefit. Also has some other, small benefits, mechanical rooms, size can shrink. We're not necessarily doing huge units that need to be enclosed, so there's a give and take with that cost.
Now, you don't have a 10-year comparisons of the two or anything of that nature?
We can do some operational costs,
Yes,
because that's
yeah.
the biggest thing.
Because we've done them on several projects, we can get that.
I mean, the payback's 5 to 10 years, no more.
And there's a carbon credit too.
The grants that they're giving for.
But they're giving
geothermal,
grants too.
Cover a lot of that cost substantially.
One of the things you might want to consider, you're in the Tennessee Valley aquifer, and you can do that geothermal a lot less expensive by doing it with wells rather than with.
That's the prices I'm getting is root well drilling. They did ours in Wellsville, and it's much more effective as far as cost.
Water's easy to find with.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, the estimator we worked with was going with the horizontal loop
Right.
system. We thought that was going to be the better cost savings for it, but given your,
Case, no.
yeah, okay, so very good.
Yeah.
And then, just for the cost, did you factor in prevailing wages? Is that, we're gonna have to follow that with an RFP? Do you have to follow that with the IDA as well?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yes. So did.
Get out of that machine.
So this is looking more, this is a combined, so the office ones up top are more, not using prevailing wages, no state funding, potentially it's private. Whereas the two below tier.
We have to follow the federal rules, but not the state rules. Yeah.
Right, so they would have a portion of it, or maybe the whole project needs to be. No, this doesn't really equate that right now.
And we don't have state funds in here, so we'll be okay.
Right.
With ARC, you'll have, ARC, you do have to follow, right?
Federal.
But IDA doesn't, it's your own.
We'll be able to follow the federal rules.
Okay, gotcha.
Does anyone want to go in the weeds on the next slide, or can we just focus on this one?
Go to the next one.
All right.
Several of us will work on the
Let's
next
see.
one, you know that.
Okay. I was trying to avoid it. So this is just a further breakdown. Very general costs. Everything was rounded to like $100 instead of, to the cents, which we did have. But just breaking down big components like carpentry and wood framing, the masonry, the stone around the base. There's some general things at the bottom. For this one, there's all four of them again shown, we only show the office of 2600 with geo, and we show the marketplace and office with geo. We don't show the one without with natural gas. But so there's the sub-construction, which is about 1.5 million for just the office. And then there's all the contingencies and stuff like that. So general conditions, general requirements, insurance bonds, that could be the contractor, mobilization, stuff like that. The insurance and bonds, there's normally a small percentage that goes towards that on a project. Project contingencies, that's more, we're at a very conceptual level. ODS, I know, for example, uses like a 15 to 25% at this stage. We're only at 10% right now, so a little more risky, but your building also seems pretty straightforward that we don't need to put 25% markup on it right now, which would bring the project to like 3-4. So more realistic, 10%. The contingency is so for design and for construction combined there. Architectural, engineering, design, inspection. So we have our agreed upon contract with you guys, so that's a portion of that. And then there's a little bit more added on for things like inspections, testing, stuff like that. So they might want to test the geothermal system, We might have testing or looking at the rebar or something of the slab, and inspections like that. So that's a couple tens of thousands for inspections. Legal administration costs, there's something carried there for if we had a clerk of the works or some sort of representation for you guys on site, stuff like that. So that can either be totally like struck out if didn't go forward with that, or maybe even increased if you really want full representation on site or something. But we just wanted to carry a cost in there, so it's considered. So that came to about a quarter of the project roughly at $480,000 for the total of 1.9. So questions?
No,
The committee saw it a little bit more detailed in this in different contexts, but we thought it'd be good for the board to have the same kind of context we did last year. And I think this is easier to understand.
and you didn't put in FF&E yet?
No. And actually, I'm working with the Wilson Foundation. They pretty much have committed that they will do that. Yeah, I have to get the numbers to them. What they're talking about is equipment, furniture, and finishes. The extra things in a building, once you build a building, it's not just empty.
Things people never.
They've
think about.
actually.
Wait a minute, we gotta put a desk here.
They have not committed yet, but I'm telling you, they've already are asking for a proposal for 3 to 5 years of FF&E and operational costs.
Oh, that's great to hear.
And that's a good question. So this does include, built-in furniture and stuff. So your millwork for the vanities. It does include toilet fixtures and whatnot.
All right.
So something to sit on there.
But not the,
Not
the tables and
furniture.
this kind of
Furniture. But we do have, the kitchen mat will have that work and stuff built in this one.
But it won't have any of the work for like,
With the kiosks and stuff.
Yeah, it
But
doesn't include
that's part of that
That's-
proposal for the Wilson
Okay.
Foundation.
Yeah.
even though those could be built in? Even though those could be built in?
They could be, but we talked as a committee about making
Just
this very,
very flexible.
flexible, exactly,
Yeah,
flexible.
instead of having built-in spaces, we want to have enough so we can move stuff. Because you don't know who's gonna.
Or what, sort of art, yeah, or anything like
You don't want to put like a 10-foot sculpture on the table.
that. Right.
Craig said that's
Or
exactly.
And even we discussed like having it flexible enough where we could have some of those, if you've been in a gallery, a movable wall, where we could even have a show of some sort, like a food show, so we could have it really flexible.
So we'll dive into the next one. It's the same thing. If it shows up, well, you have it in front of you too.
There you
Okay. So
There you
this
go.
one's labeled correctly. This is the marketplace at 2,300 and then office at 26 for just under 5,000 square feet. The cost changed a little bit. It's a little bit bigger of a building. So like, for example, your roofing, instead of, if it was $40 a square foot, might be $59 a square foot now. Costs come down a little bit for more material, more clean. So it's the same setup. It's just size for 4,900 square feet. There's all the same categories there. It does go for 30 parking spaces in this one instead of 20 for the last one. That is one change. As well as, that's about it. And then at the bottom, so that was about 2.6 million. At the bottom, the contingencies, the general condition stuff, those are percentages, so those went up. They're going off at 2.6 million as compared to the last one, which was 10.4. So general conditions, a contractor goes up. They're gonna have a supervisor on site longer to do a bigger building than they would for a short one. So things like that go up. What stayed the same was, in that category was really our fee and whatnot, that's already contracted. What changed in there, I think inspection went up a little bit, it's just a little bit bigger of building, so that percentage, that percentage of the totals of construction went up a little bit. Any questions on that one? Sorry, I'm not an estimator, so this is my version of how I speak to it. That's it.
One of those things we talked about in the committee that we really haven't talked about this morning is what the look of the entrance would be for the office building if the marketplace wasn't built. Do you guys have any thoughts about that? You can just discuss it if you haven't got it to this point.
Absolutely. There's kind of two ways to tackle it. What we were thinking, and actually the floor plan's probably better, way to look at it. We've kind of got this public access corridor, so there's a few different options. We could do just a small entry element off to the side to save costs versus building this first main element. So you could do that first main element, this is your most expensive option, smaller entry components here, or as the plan would function, we could provide a front-facing entry in this region, and as the building added on, we could eliminate that or keep it and make it a different space.
So phase 2 is really the entrance and the marketplace.
Yeah, because we're considering this whole part of that.
The
Yeah.
grant.
Now, the problem is, if we could raise money some way, we could do it separately. But with an ARC or most of these grants, you need to have matching funds. And so the option of doing it in 2 phases is minimal, is what I'm saying, because we'd have to figure out a way to get the other funds for the other piece. And it wouldn't be typically through a grant because they want to have matching funds.
Yeah, maybe we use the word phase here as
It
just
could be done.
suggesting that the office building could be built without the marketplace.
Right.
and our grant fund
Sure.
go through, not that it would be 2 different.
Right, but just to Craig's point, the idea is if we don't get the marketplace built now, it's unlikely.
Well, it's very hard then to raise the money in some
Right.
context because
Yeah.
most people want you to
This
put
is our
money
rush
in,
on,
skin in the game, basically.
right?
And I think something we were discussing, Craig, is one nice thing about the marketplace also coming in is that there's a lot of shared costs between toilet rooms, mechanical, things like that. So you might have noticed in the summary, the highest cost was you guys building a building on your own, whereas it got cheaper for you when our funding came in.
Well, the entrance space makes it a much cooler looking building too.
It does, and you almost wonder what that would cost on its own with the phase 1.
It would add quite a bit.
Yeah, even though it's not a lot of used space.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's all for discussion because at this stage, all I'm looking for is enough so I can get my grants submitted in
Right.
July. We're still gonna have those discussions as to what we want to do in phasing it or figuring out if we really want to build part in 2 phases.
And honestly,
We've got something to discuss now.
I think creating this, if it were to be done as that entry.
That would make
so
the most
squeeze it in,
sense.
And then we're not having to tear something down.
Yeah.
Plus, as you were to come here, we've kind of got this feature wall set up, so you have some signage and brochures where you
Yeah,
enter.
you'd be tearing stuff down if you did anything
Yeah.
else.
Right.
And it makes sense to come in from the front.
Absolutely. Other questions? Flip to wherever.
Thank you very much, yeah, very helpful.
So I believe our next goal is to continue moving this forward, work on the narrative.
For the grant, yeah.
Yeah.
Because just so you know, what part of the grant is they have to have an engineering report, sorry, it's called engineering report. To these artifacts, but basically you have to have a summary of what we've just said and how it fits into the grant.
Yeah,
And
so
basically, we just have to, edit what Rick did last year.
Yeah, we have those components already put together, so we got our structural team, mechanical, plumbing, everyone,
Right.
civil, already put together narratives to put in the report. That's actually what we gave the estimator to make the costs, so they weren't just saying, hey, this building is 5,000 square feet, this is what mechanical is. They looked at the components and the size equipment that our mechanical engineer said would be appropriate for us. Not looking into expansion though, so that would be a large.
Well, at this stage, we need to talk about that, but at this stage for the grant, we have X amount of dollars.
So what's the timeline then as far as moving along?
The grant is due July 8th. So I need board approval probably now, and that's why I sent you the executive summary. And now looking at the cost, which I didn't have before, the executive summary had last year's cost. So the board has to agree that we agree with something number-wise. In other words, if you go back to the numbers.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
So, no, it's the one with Paul showed the difference in the grant, ARC grant,
The summary.
summary one, the first number, this one. So even though it's labeled wrong, we have to kind of decide if we want to do the grant, which obviously, as I told last board, I told this board the same thing. You're not going to get the grant unless we put it in. So that the best option now is to use one of those two bottom numbers, which basically means the IDA is not committing, is putting in the grant that we would fund if we get the grant, 1.45 or 1.25 with that executive summary. And we're not asking it to give you money. I'm just saying, what can I put in the grant that we would fund?
And we don't necessarily have to fund that out of our cash, I mean, because you're still gonna be building a funding stack related to this.
Yeah, we're
right?
still working on that.
Yeah, so.
But that'd be the worst case scenario,
Right,
we end
worst
up
case.
doing the whole thing.
Right, and then just in relation to that, when would you find out about the ARP grant?
October.
October,
I
yeah,
mean,
so.
So we've got
a
time.
full other, good amount of time.
We've got time to
Continue
discuss
write
really what
grants
options.
And seek funding.
Right, and we are working on that. Like I
So
said,
really, you're asking what would be the maximum amount?
that's the maximum amount of commitment.
Prepared to commit to, but even when the project is commencing, you'd still be seeking to.
Other
raise
funds, we have
and
enough, we probably have another
Minimize
another year to kind of minimize that
Cash
number.
impact to us, right, so you're looking at the ultimate, okay.
But the previous
the
board,
grant-
and hope this board agrees that we should build an office space. That's the real issue, more than building the market space.
If you put in the grant for the geo
Thermal,
and, does that commit us to that?
No.
Okay.
They don't tell you, yeah, they'll-
Right, so
no,
why
we're
not-
still at
why
the,
not
they
just go-
understand it's, I mean, in the grant, it's written up that this is still the initial design phase,
Right.
which we didn't have done last time. We kind of helpfully kind of made it up.
Yeah.
But we have enough floor plans and information, we can send more detail. But obviously, there's still negotiation time if there's some
Right.
reason.
And you know the best, Craig, but basically what the grant will commit us to is the use and function of the space to meet the requirements that the grant is asking.
But the
not
grant-
how we build the building, just that it meets the
And
use.
it's really
use.
our intent,
Right.
right, at this
Right.
moment, I
Right.
mean, it really doesn't become real until we sign a contract.
Which wouldn't be till next year.
That's right, yeah, so
If you-
really,
At least 6 to 8 months away.
you're asking the board to.
Allow me to put in a
basically say
grant
that We're
using these
numbers.
We're willing to have an intent to spend this much.
If we
without
get
And we
committing to
already,
it that
and
much.
we already have the financials to back that up.
Yeah,
right?
we
We
do.
got nothing else,
Right.
so, I mean, it's
The
not
money's
like
there.
you're not in a bad fiscal position.
Yeah, I'm not
It's
asking you to
like,
go
yeah,
borrow
we can
money.
afford the money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just a quick comment on it. I think the numbers are good. I mean, I feel favorable about, putting forward a motion for our intent to do that. I guess the question I have is, because I just also think about grant reviewers and the level of detail and, the contingency was nice, but I'm wondering about three things related to the bottom line number, which is the FF&E that wasn't.
Oh, it's in the grant that we're getting that
You
money
are,
sources,
right.
yes.
But it's not included in this, so I guess I'm asking if you want us to consider raising this a little bit to be able to include those things, because I wouldn't want you to get dinged because the price estimation didn't include things like FF&E. There's also price escalation, and prevailing wage.
Yeah.
Right, and so, if you feel comfortable with this number, great, but if you want to try to consider some of those factors that might increase the estimation, just to play it safe with respect to the ARC grant review, I would say that might be a conversational piece for us as well. I mean, when I look at it, I really think it's a $4 million project, if I'm being honest with you. Based on the estimates, based on a year from now, what the actual prices will be, based on FF&E, nothing ever comes on price. So for us as a board, I think, we should probably think about it in that term so that we
Give
can.
you some space.
Yeah, give us some space, if you always play to the exact number, you're almost guaranteed to be wrong,
I guess.
right? And it's usually never wrong on, well, we came in under cost,
Yeah.
so I think just for our purpose, we probably need to be thinking about it truly as a $4 million project.
But my concern is you've already built in contingency.
Yeah.
So you're talking about putting a contingency on a contingency.
Yeah, well, it's contingency and 10%, and that's pretty standard, but there's just some things that weren't factored into the price estimation. I mean, prevailing wage is a big one.
My other problem is, if you go, if the IDA is putting too much money into this, and they should be promoting, what they're supposed to be promoting, not building a building.
Yeah,
You know, there's a limit here, you know?
sure,
There's only so much money, and that money should be promoting business in Allegheny County,
yeah,
not building a mansion. You know,
right, yeah.
so,
Well, I think
let's
this
just-
does that.
let's
with
just
the
look at it
farmers
that way.
market and the,
Some of it is economic development,
Yeah.
for sure, that's the point, but I get it.
I think it's a great investment. I just-
Well, with the marketplace, it's economic development.
Yeah, and I'm
It truly
perfectly
is.
fine with these numbers as well, if you feel confident that that will be received well, you know, Craig, by the reviewers of the art grant. But if you want to try to make sure we're including some of the other elements, or just for our own purposes, you know, as Craig continues to build the funding staff, we just probably want to have.
I think the only one thing, although I know we're gonna get the money from it would be nice to have an FF&E number. Well, I mean, you can do that fairly quickly for me. Yeah, I'm just saying, because, you know, that's a percentage type thing for office space and what quality. Obviously different for the marketplace, but it's really not. It's not expensive, it's just that we need a lot of tables and places to put things.
Yeah.
I think the FF&E is probably the biggest one. Because
I think so too. Well, and so my suggestion, just to throw it out there, you know, maybe you put in, maybe we consider a $1.5 million intent, right? Again, that's likely going to be the ceiling. Craig will build a funding staff that would seek to reduce that in time. We're not committing anything beyond.
Not committing anything. All
Numbers
I'm
in the grant.
doing at this stage is using the numbers in the grant.
Yeah, and it gives you a little bit of wiggle room, and it looks very favorably when you say where our intent is to support more than the very bottom line that is put in is what would be the cost estimation. Because any grant reviewer will know cost estimation is always wrong. It always costs more. They want to see that
I wonder
there's
if
capacity.
1.5 million bridges that gap. It's just a little over the 1.452, but not, to your point, committing a ton of ideas
Right,
to things
yeah.
that might be compact.
That's what that would be my suggestion.
Well, and even when the grant, if the grant is accepted, you still have the option of going with the natural gas
That's right.
option, which gives you more money in that
Right.
bridge for FFP.
You can always value engineer,
And there's-
right, if we don't have.
There's other things too,
Right.
we've already discussed tightening.
Right. So you give us some available funding.
It's not a final design, it's numbers, it's enough of a design so I can give you now a floor plan, a look.
Yeah.
And obviously it's a better estimates.
Is that, she asked a good question. We submit, reviewers, I think, would look favorable, more favorable on geothermal than they would on natural gas. And if we drop back to natural gas as a savings of $100,000, $200,000, what kind of review is that grant?
Well, I think we
We're
can
gonna
still
do?
work with Paul and CP&L on some numbers to maybe make them closer to the same if we go to a different route, you know, I think.
Sure.
I think it's gonna be very close to the natural gas number.
Wells,
With
it
wells.
says
Yeah,
upon-
wells,
Yeah.
I've already got some equipment costs, which I'm gonna toss onto Paul and obviously in controls. So I think
But
we
your point is
could,
not big.
I think we
it's
could
not
make,
big.
I think we could make the bottom one work for geothermal by the time we get to the
Some
grant.
grant.
I agree, and our mechanical engineers go for grants for our clients for geothermal all the time, and they've only gotten better through the state or other.
And then obviously we haven't considered, I don't think, all the rebates we
Yeah,
get.
that's what I was just gonna say.
If you consider the rebates, the fact that the wells are gonna be cheaper, I'm pretty sure before the grant is put in, we can get this down to the 1.25.
I think so, yeah. What is the match requirement? It's not 1-to-1.
No, it's, we're in at risk, so it's at 30%.
30%. Okay, so you're well above.
I think that's a good place to be, but we can't do it for, I mean, most we get is 2 million from them, you know that.
Yeah.
So we basically can't ask them for more, you know, we can't, there's no way to get our number down unless we don't build something.
Okay. Any other discussion on this or anything else you wanted to mention in relation to the art grant?
Well, the biggest thing is I gave you the executive summary write-up. We've got most of the support letters, thank you, Steve, coming. So the real issue is the bottom line as to what I can put in the grant for the match piece. We know we're gonna get 1.9-ish from the grant. We can't get much more than that. And then, like you just talked about, do we put in there, once I get all the numbers done, and I'll give you it before we finish it, but it would be nice to know what that number is. Is it a 1.5 number? Is it a 1.4 number? What's the number? So that's really what I'm allowed to put in the grant, that's what it comes down to.
You're talking as far as our commitment.
Our intent.
Yeah, our intent, and like Steve said, I'm working to get that down, but that'd be the highest max commitment. If we get the grant, we don't have the grant, and we haven't accepted the grant, so it's really putting it on paper, as Steve knows, that to get the grant. But yeah, they would expect us to come up with those kind of numbers from some source. But I have to put in that we're committed at this stage.
So are you looking for a motion and an approval
Yes.
of the number right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just, I've been with the county 9 years, IDA struggled forever, never had 2 nickels or up again, and we finally have money. We haven't spent any on anybody else yet. You know, there are a few grants we've got, big deal, held out. That's the problem, love to see this project go through. I have a hard time pulling the trigger and saying, oh yeah, we're gonna dump another $500,000 into this on us. And IDAs, I know the marketplace, people like that. An IDA is not a walk-in venue. You put this in the back of a grocery store, people find the IDA. That's,
I will disagree with that.
Well-
In publicly. I've been to a lot of IDA offices, and I've been to what you're talking about, and it's not what we want to have.
well, maybe not, I'm not saying, I'm just having trouble with that.
What's that?
Well, we don't have an option. We've got to be out of here. And if that-
We have to find another office in 2.5 more years. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying we have to build something. The last board wanted to build something, and I agree with the building of something and building it over at the crossroads.
Yeah, the mixed use space here, I think, is really nice, and to be able to also use this as a community space, you know, for that conference center and the offices. I think it's a good point, though. I mean, it's a big investment, you know, for us, and you know, I think sounds like, you know, still new, but it sounds like we've been talking about it for quite some time. And again, I don't think this commits us to anything, right?
Just
I
to
think
put in the grant.
it
in.
commits us to making sure, to continue to move forward, to look into this, right? To see. My genuine hope is, and Craig's really good at this, is to raise additional funding, right? And once you get the leverage of what our intent is with the other pieces start to fall into space, like Craig had mentioned, you know, with Wilson and EDAs coming around. I'm sure there's probably some opportunities
Yes.
with them.
That's not what I'm looking into.
Yeah.
So another question I have is, if we were to put a number forward, why wouldn't we just use the 1452,400? Or
We can.
1.5 million, increase our likelihood of getting there.
So we're already putting that in, it doesn't.
47,000. So if we're talking just a number that Craig can use to complete his grant application that doesn't obligate us to building anything, I'll make a motion that we allow him to use the 1,452,400 for the grant application.
I'll second that. We have a second. Okay. Anybody want to have further discussion to this evening? Of our intent. All right. Hearing no discussion, all of those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
2 opposed. Okay. Any abstentions? Okay. Looks like the motion is passed. Again, what I'm hearing, you know, from the board is that we're cautiously optimistic about this as a prospect, but it sounds like there needs to be a lot of legwork, you know, yet to be done. Maybe some urgency on trying to do anything that we can to defray the costs that would be put on us directly. Maybe one thing I would suggest would be nice to see for our next board meeting is what the potential funding stack might look like that would help cost offset.
Sure.
Yeah. And what that would relate to in terms of timelines and maybe go, no-go decision points for us. I think that would be also very helpful, you know, for us to see where we might be.
I think we need to have like I said, further discussions well before October, so we are in agreement that if we get the grant, which is still an if, it's probably a 50-50 shot, do we move forward?
Great.
And I'd like further analysis into the office. How much of that is gonna be used by the IDA? And what is the potential of these offices?
Already have it leased.
Source of income.
Already have a lease.
Okay.
So then we've got.
2 offices leased, 3 offices for the idea.
Which makes it more viable for me.
Right.
Because I'm like, John, I don't believe,
We're not building spec space is what you're asking.
yes.
We're not.
I don't believe the IDA is in the business of creating huge office spaces for themselves. So you guys can sit in comfortable offices, although I don't have anything against you. That money is supposed to go out and help bring jobs to,
Okay.
But we got a July 8th deadline, we need to move forward, either should or get off the pot.
True, and I love the idea of it. I just don't love the way it.
Yeah, I'm not sold on it.
Joe, you have to remember some of the funds that we would be using are coming from the sale of this building.
One minute.
I didn't know more.
That's my.
Which is not going back into economic development, it's, a space for us
I
to
didn't know that.
So the investment is probably 500,000 up to.
That still doesn't make me feel
Yes, yeah, it's a great point, yeah. I mean, our mission is to serve the community, and I think what I'm hearing is we really want to make sure that this space, it's a big investment, is that it's really truly going to serve the community, so.
But at least now you can move forward.
And that's why I would never bring forward a $3 or $4 million project for the board for anything, including the market space.
And that final art grant would likely, I imagine, actually have a lot of that narrative in there, right? I mean,
Yes.
you're going to probably comment on people served,
Yes.
economic contribution to the area, and so on and so forth. So I think that probably final grant will get us some of that information. And if you can couple that, with the funding staff. And then the other thing I'm kind of curious about is just ongoing operational costs. We'll probably want to consider that as well, right? Because those are going to be things that are going to be ongoing, and who's going to cover that? So utilities.
2 leased offices gets us about 50% of the way there
Okay.
to covering the operational costs. I mean, the experts need to do that, but that's sort of what we're
That's
looking
great.
and thinking about.
Well, again,
And is there potential in the?
the Wilson
leasing of
Foundation is
the-
talking about doing 3 to 5 years operational costs.
Wonderful. Yeah, but I mean, showing us the ROI
I know.
would be very helpful.
Sure.
Because you'll want to consider the things like maintenance, security.
Right.
Janitorial,
Right.
right? Who's going to clean
No,
the
I know.
toilets? So I
Is
think
there-
knowing all of those details would also be very helpful for us as a board.
Is there potential to make, like that flexible space in the marketplace side, if that was to be leased to, several artists as a working studio, is the potential there for revenue as well? With some of that?
Sure.
Are you expecting, like, if that was to go through, and I'm not saying that's, part of phase 2, obviously, but if that was to go through, is there like a commission that will be paid for the person who has the artist work in there, that you're selling that for them? Is there
Oh,
kind
yes.
of kickback on that?
The goal
That would
there,
go back to
and
IBM,
as we're
yeah.
putting together right now, is
So I mean, I
basically,
think there's other potential in
the
there.
retail operation is not to lose money, it's to break even and make money.
Right, it's not to make money, but it's to pay for itself, really.
As with any other gallery, you're gonna pay something.
Sure.
And it'll be more favorable than some other galleries, because the goal will be to be truly nonprofit. We're not trying to make a bunch of money off the artists, we're trying to give them the space, but pay for the space as well.
And that goes into consideration too, if you're gonna do the marketplace and the farmer's market out front. I'm
Same
assuming
idea,
there's
renting a
something
booth
there
or
as
whatever,
well,
but
yeah.
yeah.
Leasing out the conference room. And I'll be perfectly honest, let's face it, this building was gonna cost you money anyway, if you stayed here. So $500,000, this place doesn't even have air conditioning,
As you can sort of start to know.
I'm familiar with all of that cost as well, so I mean, that $500,000 over the years isn't gonna really get this expensive.
That's
So,
right, yeah.
if you stayed here, you're still gonna put money in, so, just an observation.
All right, we got some follow-up then here. Craig, if this were a steam train, you got us in the caboose. So you gotta move us up to the front now.
We got us where we need to go for the grant, but there's lots of work on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again, guys.
You all really appreciate your time.
Thanks.
I allowed to ask a question?
No,
Oakley, you're the.
Yeah, it's Oakley, what?
Of course you are.
If you were even entertain the horizontal geothermal, I'm not a geothermal fan, but
Alright.
if you were to entertain the horizontal geothermal, how do you intend to keep the ponds full? You gotta have thermal mass, how do you intend to keep them full?
I have to ask Gary Chasey, engineer on that.
Okay, and along with that,
Yeah, good question.
if you talk to all the old well drillers, Tom had mentioned that vertical is a better option, cost effectively. The old well drillers are afraid to drill potable water supplies in this neighborhood.
which is good, we don't want.
If you go very deep, they lose the water. And I know geothermal's deeper, but I don't know what the effects are. You may,
The,
based on what I've heard.
the
from
loops,
locals,
that
you may run
we
into
put
trouble.
in don't rely on the water.
You're
They're
using the core temperature of the earth,
correct.
so it's not a water transfer.
The ones I put in there, not. You can do them both ways,
Yeah, we've done both ways.
but you do not have to be an open system.
How deep you go?
It varies. The ones I've had,
They do drill tests.
they did 200 to 400 feet. They usually don't like to go deeper than 400, but 200 to 400.
I know. Isn't it mind blowing?
Engineers,
It's mind blowing.
Yeah, the Wellsville in the large building in Wellsville, the Construction Workforce Development Center, all their wells are 400 feet deep. That whole building, 30,000 square foot, is all geothermal. And we've got a couple buildings in the Alfred campus that are all geothermal.
Not the Wellsville campus. We don't dig down in that.
Yes, we do. I'm just saying, I got about 10 wells over there, so.
Yeah. All right, can we move on? What do you say? All right.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, guys.
Jesus.
Super
Appreciate
helpful.
it.
All right, so it looks like we're gonna talk about our committee charters.
Any comments, Ed? You got to see the presentation, right? You're muted.
Presentation, no, not in itself.
You want to rent an office? No, I've already got them rented, don't worry. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Very much.
Yeah, very helpful.
All right, Steve, the first one on here is the Finance Committee Charter. The Finance Committee reviewed this morning and we're recommending approval by the board.
And the other two charters, we've not met as a committee, but all the board members have seen them. So if there's any questions, we can either hold or I would hope we approve all of them today. You had them long enough to review.
Okay, and that would be the governance committee charter
Right.
and the audit committee charter as well, correct? Okay,
Finance is an easy one as long as you don't take the recommendation of the finance committee. They approve it.
okay. How about we start with that one then? Everybody had a chance to review the finance committee charter that was moved forward by the finance committee. If so, I would just take a motion to approve that charter.
Oh, you did? No.
I'll make it.
Okay.
I'll second.
We got it.
One of the other, yeah. We've been going back and forth.
Okay.
Doesn't matter, one.
Melissa's gonna write it down, however.
Barb's got it covered.
Oh, yeah, there you go. All right.
And she's picking.
We had a motion and we had a second. Any discussion for the finance committee charter? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we have our finance committee charter going. Maybe we can cover the other two together.
Yeah.
We'll do the audit committee charter and the governance committee charter. Everybody have a motion? Okay, we'll go two together. We've got a motion to approve those two charters.
Second.
We got a second. Any discussion? Not. All of those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
I'd like to note on those two things that Craig tasked me last year with getting us into full compliance with ADO requirements. And Craig and Ed and Barb and I, Ed especially, have worked really hard to do that. And these last committee charters, as far as I'm concerned, put us in full compliance with ADO requirements for all IDAs in New York State. So
Yeah, I have to say, it's probably, and I've only been here for 3 meetings, but what an exciting time to be a board member and be a part of the IDA. I mean, it really feels like there's a evolution happening here and a development. Like it feels like, yeah, it's a moment in time, right? We're really truly getting to a big developmental milestone here. Reviewing the charters, updating them, enhancing what we have in terms of how we track finances and how we report on things. I mean, that's a big part of that growth. So it's great to see that we're doing all those things. Okay, and it looks like we eat as well. So let's talk about the annual IDA dinner.
Yeah, last year was the first year we had a dinner in a long time, at least as long as I've been director. And I think we had a very successful dinner last night, right? It worked out real well.
Yeah.
It'd be similar attendees. I had attendees from all over the state show up. We had a good program, and we had it in Wellsville. And we thought we should move it around, not just have it in Wellsville every year, although it's a nice venue. So we looked at holding this year's October in Moonwings. And so we've done all the work and legwork. It'd be about the same cost. What Melissa said last year, we spent about an $8,000 event.
For 200 people.
And we got a sponsorship from Hodgkin Russ, which they'll do again. So, and we're working for other sponsorships. So I guess the real issue, it's in our budget, so it's not an unbudgeted item. But I just wanted to make sure that the board knows we're planning to do it in October again.
Same day as the board as of right now.
I hope not.
No, wait,
I don't
that's
like
what we
that.
talked about.
No, I said no.
We can move it, that's fine.
Last year, we did it the same year as the day as the board, and I don't think it worked out too well personally.
Well, the difference would be, we talked about this, remember, we were just gonna still do the board the same way.
In the
We weren't
morning.
gonna change the
Okay, that's
Because
fine.
before, what we did is we tried to move the board there, and it creates all kinds of IT
Oh, yeah,
challenges, and it
yeah.
was a pain in the butt.
If we do it in the morning, that's fine.
We just do the same meeting we always do.
Because
and then
last year we moved our
No, yeah,
meetings
that's
to
what we
just
ended up
before.
That's where you got in trouble.
It was not, it didn't work
No,
well.
we wouldn't move anything, and we would, and they don't even have a facility for that, so we
Right.
would have just the dinner there
Okay.
in Cuba, but it would be the same commitment.
Morning
day.
board meeting, evening activity.
Is that okay with everybody? We can change it.
No,
It's
that's
not
fine.
committed.
As long as it's morning, afternoon like that, that's fine.
Yeah.
What was this?
The 8th of October, regular board meeting as always in the morning, and then this starting at either 5 or 5:30.
Yeah, we started at 5. Unfortunately, a lot of the board members all weren't available that day, even though we let them know ahead of time.
We dropped like flies, like 3 of them at the end, yeah.
So it'd be the second
Thursday.
It's always the same day.
In Cuba at Moon the 8th. And actually today what we're seeking is approval of, I worked with Moonwings at Craig's suggestion to ask them, as we are a public agency and also a nonprofit, that they would reduce the room fee, which to use both of the rooms that we would need that are connected there, we've been there before. It's typically, it's gone up and it's $1,200 now, but they are giving it to us for $500. And in order to secure that date in the room, I need approval to pay the $500 room deposit, and that's all it would be, not
They would
$1,200.
hold 200.
Oh, no, no, no,
No,
no,
it holds
no.
130
I was gonna
total
say,
in those two.
No, we do 100.
But we're doing
Yeah,
80 to 100.
80 to 100 is
But
all
I
we
think the
do.
max there is 130, to answer your question.
That's all we did last year.
Do you need board approval if it's already in the budget, or is it just a?
Well, I think it's more like location and date. That's what I was looking for, not so much the spending of the money, but I wanted the board to approve the date and location. I think that's
But we do typically do approval with Barb's financials, but I need to pay this week.
Yeah.
And so we just got it yesterday, so the point was to just get a board motion that's approving us paying the deposit.
Well, if we don't, I wouldn't do that. If we approve the space and the time and everything else, we'll pay the deposit.
What he said,
It's in the budget.
Gotcha.
that's it.
Yeah, great.
But we
Okay.
don't want to pay the deposit unless you guys say we should have it there that day.
Okay. Do we need a formal motion, or you just need our acknowledgement?
Acknowledgement if you
Yeah,
want.
okay.
Is there any objections, I guess, to going to Moonweek on October
Yeah.
8th, similar event?
Doesn't seem like something that needs a formal board.
No, but I just wanted to make sure that I don't want to do that and all of a sudden you find out in October we're meeting on it.
Okay. Anybody feeling good about the 8th, that evening? Okay. Would it be possible to just send out like a hold the date or something like that?
I for sure can.
We can get it on the calendars.
A calendar
Thank you.
invite. Put
Yeah,
it through a calendar
it's
invite.
critical.
Yeah, I can do that.
If I don't have that, I will forget.
I will forget.
Okay, Great.
Ed, put it on your calendar, we'll get you an invite.
It really was a fantastic event last year, I have to say. It was wonderful. I mean, the networking.
Yeah, that's what the purpose of it was, the networking was really good.
Yeah. Great, looking forward to it. Okay, I do believe we need to go into executive session.
Be short.
Okay, so I would I would need a motion to go into executive session. Can I get a second?
We're not
Okay.
done. She's fine.
We are in executive session.
No, I already told her that.
I didn't know if we were gonna give her a chance.
No?
Please say what you think.
Second.
Second.
Okay,
We're out.
we are out of executive session.
We're out. Or you're in, whichever you want.
Oh, you might look at it.
We're out, you're in.
All right, as people make their way back in, Craig, do you want to summarize quickly any of?
Yeah, there's not too much on here to summarize, and we actually talked about the Brownfield grant. Do you want to say anything else about the Brownfield grant?
No, other than just that, no, 2 site-specific quality assurance plans have been approved by Craig and Esmeralda, our project representative at the EPA, which means that we will be starting our first phase 2 investigations with HRP. So that those should start, you'll hear more about them next month, because I expect they'll both be either in process or completed by the July 4th meeting. So that's exciting.
Where are those sites?
Most of the owners don't want their names. on it.
Right, so one, I can give you the towns,
Right,
so,
okay,
yeah, that's
okay.
okay, so one of them is in Belmont / Amity, I never know which to call it. And then the other one is that Friendship? Sorry.
Yeah, it's Friendship.
Friendship, yeah, Friendship.
Through
So
the
those
land-
were the two
through the
sites.
land bank, yeah.
Okay. Anything else on old business, Craig?
The BDO zone grant, that report will be done at the end of the month, so in July we'll get the report. And micro enterprise grant's going well, we're just finalizing a few questions. As you well know, Terry, CBDG, those people in the state always have a question or two. I do want to highlight that June 23rd, we're going to do the ASC training in the Lake Lodge for frontline supervisors under anybody that manages. We're going to be hosting it. We don't, and Melissa's going to be one of the facilitators.
And if you know people that wanna come, or you wanna send people from your particular businesses, if you're still working,
It only costs $25 and you're paying for lunch.
and it's 3 hours and includes a lunch meal and lunch catered by Outfit State.
Got a good pay on
Has this been advertised?
Yes,
it. Yes.
Did we get an email on this?
Yes.
you should have.
Well, I gave one to Bill. I don't think the board made it
I
that
don't
one.
think that's
Send it to the
something
board.
I saw it on Facebook.
But I can send it to the full board.
We
I
sent it.
it.
Yeah, good. We'll send it to you.
I'll forward it. What about like school districts?
Here's the thing, so we're working in concert with Ashley's office, the EDO, Ashley and Michelle, and they have a 652 person database.
But they're
About
private companies.
60 of them are manufacturing, and then there are other companies all over the county. They've been working on the database. They use HubSpot for that, it's their CRM. So I cannot tell you that I know the sort of split about, it includes all 3 of the colleges. It includes a pile of small businesses, all the larger businesses, 62 manufacturers, but I don't know the exact answer, so I can look into that for you.
You think that?
I don't know if it
You
was-
think like Wells goal system would be interested?
I don't know. I'll ask.
Okay.
We'll give you the stuff.
I don't have the details, so I don't know what the content is, so I can't answer.
How to deal with their workforce.
A change
The
in
new workforce.
We've got a workforce.
Everybody gets ready.
It's changing.
It's challenging.
Sure is.
Yes.
That's all I have for updates.
All right, any new business? Anything really good in the order? Can I get a motion then to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, second? I'll second. Okay, we are adjourned. Does anybody need a quick break before we
We
go?
should do a quick break.
Even though that happens, we skipped right over ABO board requirements, which doesn't require the board to do anything, but just a reminder that 1 out of 7 people has completed the training for the ABO board member. So you have time, it's fine, but just,
Hey,
I'll resend out.
am I that one?
You got one?
Am I that
I
one?
wasn't gonna like mess with everybody else, but you were the one. You are the one. Yeah, yeah, credit.
Since you outed yourself.
Since you brought ABO. Yeah, no. I know my job is special since I started a year ago. How about that? A year ago this month.
So many trainings, I don't even know.
I know, I got interrupted 2 days ago. I started on, it's about 45 to an hour.
You know, I mean, really?
You sit, it's on, ask, you did it. How hard was it to do that ABO training? You're the expert now, Joe. You're the expert. How was the ABO training?
I thought it was okay.
Yeah, how long did it take you?
40 minutes?
Yeah, 45 is what I thought.
It wasn't terrible.
Was it hard questions at the end?
Did they test you?
I only half-assed paid attention. I passed the
You're
exam
on.
without an issue. I mean,
Without an issue, yeah. Common sense is all about this, common sense, good. Common sense if you've been a business person, yeah, so.
Again, 100
You
on
could
the
take the
agenda,
test
too.
without going through the thing.
I have done that many times for many things.
Yes, Ed, are you
Hey,
talking?
Melissa?
Yes.
They weren't too.
Yeah, I've gotta, I'm gonna jump on my phone because I gotta get in my car shortly because I gotta drive to Buffalo for a 2 o'clock meeting in Buffalo.
Okay, if you get off, I'll
So
let
you
you back in.
Yep,
Yeah,
thanks.
no problem. Thanks, Ed.
What was the connection for that training?
It's in a few emails I sent you, but I can send it again. I usually send it after each board meeting.
To the new state, you've got to create a user ID password.
So it's weird. So the way it looks is you click the link I sent you, and then you scroll down.
See, the problem is, I'm not getting any emails because they're all going to my old email. I work for CPL,
I think I'm sending them to your new one.
you know.
I'm not
I'm
sure.
not getting them.
Okay, I'll check.
Who's gonna
I'll check.
change that?
Okay.
Check out your junk email. Mine went to the junk.
Was it a junk? Maybe that's what
Mine
it
went
is.
to junk.
Because it probably looks like an advertisement, but so you click on the link and then you scroll down and you see if they have.
Our LDC meeting.
Right.
Let us start with the review and approval of minutes. Everybody has had a chance to review the LDC meeting minutes. So I would take a motion to approve this.
I'll make a motion to approve last month's minutes.
Okay,
I'll second.
we got a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Okay, minutes have passed. Looks like you want to go into executive session.
Yeah, quickly, yes.
Okay, can we get a motion?
I'll
All right, any second? we are out of it.
Okay, and we need to make sure we don't have a mower.
Oh my gosh, I don't know, will hear us.
Go ahead.
We back live again?
Yeah, we're live.
All right. And then with our financial report, doesn't seem like we need an action item or any discussion around that.
No, there's no movement.
That's just interest, right, Barb, you said?
Yeah.
Interest, that's all that's in there.
Do we have any old business? Any new business? Anything for good of the order? How about then we get a motion to adjourn? Second?
I got
All right, we are adjourned with our LDC meeting. Let's go into our utility corporation